Hello there guys, and welcome to another one of my reviews. Today we are testing a brand new car that's just been released, and I'm talking, of course, as you probably figured out by the title of this review, about the BMW 8 Series Convertible. The car we're testing today is the M850i xDrive model, which at the moment is the top of the range version. Later down the line, later this year, BMW is supposed to launch an M8 Coupe, an M8 Convertible, and an M8 Grand Coupe. All these three models will be blazing fast if this M850i is anything to go by. This thing is powered by a 4.4 liter V8 twin turbo motor, the N63 that you probably already know, that has reached its third iteration right now. Initially, the N63 was launched with around 405 horsepower. Then it was upgraded to 450, 460, and then it reached its peak, I might say, because I don't think BMW will continue to make this engine past this production car. And it has 530 horsepower and 750 Newton meters of torque. Now, those figures are dangerously close to the M5, the current M5. Actually, in terms of torque, this car has exactly the same amount of torque as the M5, just 70 horsepower less. And to be honest, it feels like it's too much at times. This thing is absolutely blazing fast. It will launch from 0 to 62 miles an hour in just 3.9 seconds, as you're about to see. Now, you might notice that it's not exactly on par with BMW's claims, but that has become the habit of modern cars, especially after they got turbocharged, to be faster than what the companies claim in real life situations. So yeah, it's not just the M50i Convertible that does that, it's other cars as well. And that's because their engines typically produce more horsepower than what the manufacturers claim. This car in coupe, guys, I mean, the engine has been put to the test by various publications around the world, various independent measurements, figured out that this thing is actually pushing around 600 horsepower and some 800 and something Newton meters of torque. So yeah, it's more powerful than BMW claims. And to be honest, you can feel it when you drive it. The seam of your pants will tell you that this thing is blazing fast. And that's all true, even though this thing weighs about 2.1 tons. And it's going to be the heaviest 8 Series in the range, even though the Grand Coupe might be longer, but this thing, I'm willing to bet, will be heavier because of its folding mechanism and everything stored in the back. So it rides on a new platform, new engine, new transmission and everything. It has a new design on the outside, new design on the inside. It's a brand new car, and some people have actually said that this is just a revamped 6 Series. But to be honest, driving it for a week, I feel like it's more special than the 6 Series it replaces. It feels more special. People break their necks looking for it on the streets. So it feels a lot more special than the 6 Series. It may also be because it's a brand new car and it looks absolutely amazing and imposing. The front end has big nostrils, slim headlights which accentuate the size of the nostrils, the grills. It has huge air intakes on the sides, which are functional, by the way. They have intercoolers behind them. And then if you look on the side of the car, there are character lines and creases that accentuate its body shape. And then you arrive at the summit, which is the back end, and that's fat, full of shapes, and it has really thin tail lights, and it's a really good looking car, especially with the roof down. With the roof up, it's still a good looking car, and I think I like it more than the coupe with the roof up because it doesn't have a B pillar. If you remember, the original 8 series had no B-pillar, so the new one came out with a B-pillar, and I was disappointed by that, especially since the main rival of this car, the S-Class Coupe, doesn't have a B-pillar. So BMW couldn't be bothered to make an effort and create the coupe without a B-pillar. And yet on the convertible you don't have one, and when you raise the roof, it's basically as if you had a coupe model without a B-pillar. So that's why I like the way it looks more than the coupe. However, the coupe model is more practical. Don't think that it has more room in the cabin, because it doesn't. The coupe and the convertible both lack room inside the cabin. Somehow, even though this is a 5-meter long car, they didn't manage to be smart enough or be creative enough to offer enough room inside for 4 grown adults. Instead, you have plenty of room up front, but once you set up your seat in your comfortable driving position, just like I am right now, there's just no room in the back anymore, at least not behind my seat. For the passenger side, of course, since the passenger doesn't have to drive, it can move, he or she can move the seat forward and maybe fit another person in the back. But fitting 4 people inside will be a stretch. Unless they're children, you won't be able to do it. Therefore, you will mostly use the rear seats as storage space. And that's quite useful, because the boot isn't all that big either, because it has to house the roof once you fold it. So you can fit about 2 medium-sized strollers in there and maybe 2 duffel bags, but that's about it. So yeah, not a lot of room. That's not going to be a problem for the customers that buy this sort of cars, because this is an expensive car. The one we're testing today is 153,000 euros, and it has plenty of options on it. But even if you don't go for a fully kitted car, you still have to pay considerably more than 6 figures. So that won't be a problem for the rich people who can afford this car. That said, the fuel consumption won't be an issue either, because as you might assume, the 4.4 twin turbo V8 engine under the hood has 530 horsepower, but that comes at a cost, and that's fuel consumption. Around town, I couldn't get a fuel consumption under 20 liters of petrol per 100 kilometers covered, no matter what I tried. If I put it in sport mode, the car would sip well over 25 liters. So that's something you need to keep in mind. You will probably be able to do about 400-500 kilometers around town if you're careful with a full tank. On the outside of busy streets and busy cities, on the highway, I saw an average fuel consumption of around 10 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers covered at an average speed of 110 kilometers an hour, which in my opinion is actually decent. It's actually okay, considering I drove with the roof down, which increases drag, and at a rather decent average speed. Don't forget, this is a heavy car and with a big engine, so you cannot expect it to sip any less. The only issue you'll have with fuel, because as I mentioned already, people buying this car won't have a problem paying for the fuel, will be the chance of you running out of fuel before reaching a gas station. So that's something you need to keep in mind, just to make sure you don't have any surprises down the road. You might notice I'm not keeping my hands on the steering wheel, and that's because this car is fitted with active driving assistance features, which keep you in lane, can brake for you, can accelerate for you, and so on. The only thing you need to do is be present in the car, touch the steering wheel from time to time, make sure you're paying attention to the road. This is not a self-driving car, remember that. This is a car that has aids that can help you on longer trips to make things comfortable. Speaking of comfort, this is a Grand Tourer, so this will be one of the most comfortable cars BMW makes. In comfort mode, to be honest, it is absolutely brilliant. Hops over road irregularities really easily, really smooth. It's really comfortable on longer trips. Put it in sport mode and you get a totally different animal. The first thing you're gonna notice is the exhaust flaps opening and bringing to life that V8 noise. That V8 noise is addictive. That will get you in trouble. This thing is very fast. You will lose your license really easily, so you might want to keep that in mind. But it sounds great, it drives great, even for a convertible. It's not a track car, don't get me wrong. It's really fast, really fun to drive. It oversteers so easily, even though it's all-wheel drive, because it has a locking differential on the rear axle. So it's a blast to drive, but this is not a track car. If you want a track car of this size, just wait for the M8 to come out, and you're probably better off with the coupe model. That said, I really cannot complain about much on this car. Yeah, I don't like the fact that even though it's 5 meters long, you don't have enough space inside for 4 adults. I don't like the wind deflector, which basically nullifies the rear seats if you want it up, and it's a really old solution. Other competitors from Mercedes, for example, have a wind deflector up front over here on top of the windscreen, and they have one in the back in between the headrests of the rear seats, and it works really great, and you don't have to have this big old thing inside the car. If you have the windows up like I do right now and the wind deflector in the back, you can drive comfortably without being disturbed by wind too much at speeds up to 110 kilometers an hour. You can easily do that. Going over it, the wind might become a nuisance inside the cabin. So yeah, you need to keep that in mind. Around town, you won't have any problems with the wind blowing in your face. That being said, this has been my review of the BMW M850i xDrive convertible. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe to keep this channel alive.